Fabulous.
And yeah, technically we are streaming. So launch us off,
Fabulous.
Dana.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Whatever Show. I am Dana Dubois.
I'm Lawrence Winterman.
That's my best friend.
That's my best friend.
Wait, you're over here for me.
You're over here for me.
How is that possible?
You have one view and I have the other.
I'm spatially impaired. That's never going to work for me. Lawrence, how is day 2 in Seattle?
Day 2 is fabulous. I had dinner at Gainsbourg last night, our favorite place, with a charming, intellectual, vibrant, dynamic redhead. Oh, no. I mean, yeah, no. Later I had dinner with you too. I'm kidding. Of course it was you.
I know you are. It was so, it's just such a magical thing now when you're here. We've talked about this before, that when you lived here, we never did this hardly. But now that you don't live here, the thrill of getting to hang out with you and to go to our favorite spot is like through the roof. So also delicious. I think I'm still full from the French onion soup and steak free and wine extravaganza that last night was.
God, I love that place. It's just so good.
It is the best kept secret in Seattle. Should we say the name of it so it's not a secret?
I mean, sure. Gainsbourg on Greenwood Avenue, Greenwood and 85th. It is a weird little French cafe. They kind of have a, Serge Gainsbourg vibe. It's, literally where the name comes from. Great steak frites, great French onion soup. Just everything is amazing there. Everything is delicious. I absolutely love it.
It is, and it's kind of like frozen in time because the menu hasn't changed, and weirdly the prices haven't changed. So for like Seattle restaurant prices, at least it's super affordable and it's so good. And it just feels very European, where it's like both kind of shabby and chic or fancy at the same time. Like it has this super cozy vibe, and they have all these silver candelabras with white tapers in them that they let melt all the way down. So there's like all this melted wax on them, and the baguettes are out in a basket, just sitting on the edge of the bar. And then behind the bar, they have the burners where they're cooking your food, so you can sit at the bar and watch them cook, which I find immensely charming. I don't know, like it just is. My kids would say all the good vibes.
All the good vibes. Yeah.
Come to Seattle. It is off the beaten path. Like it's not going to be in any restaurant guide, but you can get amazing steak frites for like what, $24.
Yeah. I just learned that Lefty Prof's first name is Tracy because she referred to herself in third person. So that's fun, getting to know you.
Getting to know all about you. We have a really cool show lined up for today. We have Michelle Teheux, who's going to be joining us in a few minutes. She wrote a story a few days ago now, maybe last week, about small town newspapers, how she was the editor of hers for years and how they've gone away, and kind of how she still yearns for that job. And it just got me thinking of like all the things that our generation, Gen X, has known and lost. And some of them are like, perms, good riddance. Good that they're gone. But we can really see the void that's left. And I haven't really thought about the loss of the local rag or the local actual newspaper. But when she wrote that, I was like, yeah, that's a huge gap of knowledge and kind of community building and information sharing gone. So I'm really excited to dig into that story with her today. She'll be joining us in just a few minutes. And one programming note, tomorrow, as we all know, is Friday, which means it's Fucked Up Friday. We were supposed to have Descent in Bloom joining us, a creator I have long been looking forward to meet. She sadly just had to postpone. We're working on a new date, but we've got Melissa Corrigan jumping in, longtime, supporter of, and we're huge fans of hers. She's going to be amazing. But Lawrence and I were just talking about before we came on air that he will not be here tomorrow.
I will not. I will not. So I came to Seattle for a very specific purpose, to help a friend. And I just learned that the timing of that conflicts with this show, which I didn't expect because, it's so early. It's so early out here. And I never think of my friends as being like, hey, let's get together at 7 o'clock in the morning. But it's an important thing. And so I need to do it. And I absolutely know that Melissa and Dana can carry the show without me. And, hey, it opens up the floor for surprise last minute guests. So we'll see. We'll see what
does. I'm like, we may need, I feel like Fucked Up Friday needs 3. We can't just have 2 stories pitched. So raise your hands if you're free tomorrow morning.
Who wants to join the Fucked Up Friday show tomorrow? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, we'll figure that out. We are always figuring it out on the fly, right?
Yeah. Morgan just called me out in the chat. Thanks, Morgan. She says, liar, you're just there for the sex, LW. I mean, I am. I'm also here to help a friend, and I'm also here to see Dana. So all these things are true. Yeah. You know what else is true? Trump is all over the Epstein files, and we got more evidence of that yesterday when the House Oversight Committee basically dropped 23,000 emails, kind of trying to flood the zone, but many, many, many of them are horribly incriminating. Like when Jeffrey Epstein himself refers to Trump as that dog Trump, and basically says that Trump spent hours at Jeffrey Epstein's New York place with victim whose name was redacted.
Right. That the dog didn't bark.
Right. The dog didn't bark. The picture just keeps getting clearer and clearer, and it really requires a willful suspension of disbelief at this point to think that Trump is not, completely and utterly all over the Epstein files.
Right. I did just see, I can't believe I'm about to go to Truth Social to verify something.
Don't get cooties.
But I saw it shared on someone's, I can't remember where I saw it on Facebook, but somebody shared it. And of course, I'm always like, is it real? Because it always looks so bad. I'm not going to keep digging around here because I got slimed just looking at it. But he was saying something about like, if the dog didn't bark, it means I'm innocent. I clearly this is just a distraction. And I was like, yeah, that's not what that means.
Bro, that's not what that means at all. It means that you have the secrets and you have not spilled them. Come on, we are not dumb.
Yeah, the level of denial and people who will accept it never fails to boggle. But yeah, that our press secretary will just get up and be like, we see nothing incriminating here.
And, I have this really strong suspicion that she's got like a picture of Dorian Gray thing going on, and that like by the time she's done lying, just lying through her teeth for this man, that she's gonna like peel off a layer, and she's a withered old crone underneath, because the lies, those have got to be corrosive towards youth.
Yes, that's the picture of Caroline KKK kind of fits the picture of Dorian Gray there and rhymes. So that could be a good story. I do think that you may be right. She has this, like, she's actually like 1,000 years old photo or painting that's just withering away of her, but it from all of the lies that she has to tell every day. I think it was Dr. Stacy Patton who wrote a note yesterday of like, don't think this is going to take him down. There could be video of him literally raping a 12-year-old. And people would be like, he didn't know she was only 12. She doesn't look 12. She looks older. That video is fake. It's an AI video. Like, there's literally nothing that you could do to change the minds of
I continue to believe that our friend Ellie Leonard, when she says that this actually goes into the highest levels of finance of like the American financial system, that's going to be the thing that pulls everything down. Because if those, if the global financial system collapses because literally everybody at the highest levels of all the major banks, like his funding is going to dry up. Like, yeah, I continue to believe that this will be the thing. It's taking longer than we thought it would, which is making me crazy. But you know what we should do? We should add Michelle to this conversation, because I bet she has opinions about this.
I bet she does. And I did want to, while we're putting Michelle on, say one other bit of news. Seattle has a mayor-elect.
Indeed. Seattle has a mayor-elect, Katie Wilson. She did it. She won by 1,900 votes, which is shocking.
She pulled ahead. We predicted she could not come back. Sorry. Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
We're going to introduce you in 1 second. Seattle has a new mayor.
Congratulations.
It was, I was comparing it to New York. It was like a New York City light situation, very light, in that we had a progressive upstart, Katie Wilson, running against incumbent Bruce Harrell, who is not Andrew Cuomo, but he is a corporate centrist kind of. Everyone's always a Democrat out here, but he is way more Republican leaning, way more conservative than Katie. And on election night, it looked like he had almost 54% of the vote. Like, we were like, she can't close that gap, but we do mail-in voting, and the procrastinators like me tend to vote more progressive. And yeah, she's up now by 1,900 votes, which goes outside the margin of error. Like, he hasn't conceded yet, so she hasn't done her victory speech, but it's kind of unanimously understood in the press that he can't come back in the few remaining ballots that are out there. So we have a new mayor who is not super experienced, but comes with a lot of community organizing and enthusiasm and kind of youth vote behind her. So let's do this, Seattle. Michelle, how are you? Your hair looks amazing.
Oh,
as always, your hair looks incredible.
You're very kind. I know you invited just my hair, so.
No, we love you. Your hair is just a wonderful side benefit.
It is shockingly beautiful. Like, we can't not comment on it, especially usually been braided when I've seen you, and it's down.
I should have braided it, but let's just say I had a bad start this morning.
Oh no!
I spilled a whole glass of water all over my desk right before it was time to go on. The whole morning has been like that. And partly it was because I woke up at 4:30. I posted a note about this. Woke up at 4:30 a.m. from a nightmare about the whole country having become haunted. Obviously a Trump metaphor. There was no escape. Like, if you're in a haunted house, you run outside and you've escaped. We couldn't get away. The entire country was haunted. And as soon as I woke up, that's a Trump nightmare, all right. I mean, leaving the country. The whole country is haunted.
That
is
dramatic and terrifying.
Yeah, it's really interesting that all of us woke up at 4:30.
I've been up since 4:30 too.
Yeah, me too.
My eye is twitching as I'm looking at my screen right now. So who knows I woke up having a stress, dumb work stress, like, what am I going to do? Can't fall back asleep, dog futzing sort of moment. Lawrence, on the other hand, has been like alive, awake, alert, enthusiastic for hours now, working and doing his thing.
Right. I don't really know why, actually.
Because you're in your time zone, right?
Yeah. I'm in a new time zone, and I'm also I'm doing things that I really enjoy doing for the first time in what feels like a long time. So I think a lot of people know I'm working with Cliff Schechter and David Schuster over at Blue Ant Media, and man, I'm having a blast. There's a lot to do, and we're doing a lot of ambitious things, but it's kind of cool, and I'm just really excited about it. So every morning I'm kind of waking up and I'm like, I know what I need to do today.
I love that. I think that's like one of the markers for a good life, is when you're like, I love the work I'm doing. I mean, it's why I've been having a 5:30 alarm every day for the last, are we at 7 months now since the show started?
Yeah.
Of like, I need to do this work in addition to whatever other work I'm doing.
I see what we're doing. This is a segue setup.
It wasn't intended to be, but it can be. Um, I love the work that I'm doing here, and Michelle, we're going to be talking about work that you once did. I've just shared a link to your Substack. You are no stranger to the Daily Whatever Show, but for those who are seeing you here for the first time, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Michelle Teheux, and as you've mentioned, I was a journalist for about 30 some odd years. In 2015, I was laid off from my job as editor of a small daily newspaper in my community, and that was a job I really loved because not only did it allow me to do all the writing and editing I love, but um, not to sound corny, but I honestly felt like it was a calling, the same way that a religious calling or something might be for someone else. I felt I was serving democracy in my community because I was. It's a job that people often denigrate, but everybody on my staff was poorly paid and overworked, and we did it because we cared. And I could point to like so many things that we did as a little newspaper that improved our community. We righted wrongs. We brought injustices to light. We let people know what was going on. Um, Everything from the chicken dinner stuff. I mean, if your church was having a chicken dinner, we put that in the newspaper, and everybody in town could see that this fundraiser was taking place or whatever. We covered the local sports. Your kid, if your kid's playing a sport in school, you know, we would go take pictures and run stories, and we kept you up to date. You knew what was going on with your property tax and your local school board and all that stuff. And then we also, obviously we had AP stories on national, international news. You got the highlights of that. So if you got the paper, you were fairly informed. And not only that, but every single person in town got the same newspaper. We did not have a far left newspaper and a far right newspaper. We had a newspaper.
Yeah.
It wasn't written from one point of view. It was written from the point of view of all different kinds of people. And my staff was as diverse as a small staff could be. At various times, I had two lesbians actually, and one gay man. And we only had 3 or 4 reporters at any given time. So that's a lot. We had sometimes we had very religious evangelicals. Sometimes we had an editor who was a community editor who was a very religious Catholic man with a very large family. He had some opinions from all over the political spectrum. And so it's really unfair when people say the media is liberal, because the media is people, and people come in all kinds of political views. And by having a lot of different people on staff, nothing could be too biased. Everything had to kind of be, you had to consider that everybody was reading it and that not everybody had the same point of view. So you couldn't pander to any particular demographic. And that is something that we miss so much in the media, because now everything does pander. And even things that I completely 100% agree with, they're pandering to me. And I understand that, but not everybody does understand that. They think that that's the one true, like, from heaven point of view. And like, no, that's your point of view. And other people have a subtly different one. Some people have a radically different one. And as soon as you start having a splintered media that caters to every single person, I'll give you an example from today. On Substack, all my feed tells me is Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. And I thought, let's just go on Facebook and see what we see. On Facebook, all I saw was, we might get $2,000 tariff checks from Trump. I didn't see a thing about Epstein on my Facebook feed. Not one story.
Yeah, it's crazy to think how local newspapers were really kind of the information glue that held things together. And when you kind of think back to the founders expected us to be an informed electorate, right? It's the local papers that really sort of were the backbone of that, to your point, that was the thing that was keeping the local town informed and up to date and kind of, dealing with the same set of facts, the same reality.
Yeah. And the other thing was, in the olden days of media, I got my journalism degree in 1988. Things have changed just a little bit since then. But the view back then was that if you gave everybody good information, they would make good choices. And I don't think that was nearly as true as we thought. But I will say that having everybody have at least the same facts, people might have disagreed with those facts or they might have interpreted them differently, but we all mostly agreed on the facts. And of course, we didn't have AI spitting out fake videos and things like that either. But today, you don't even have people agreeing on basic facts. Like if I post that the sky is blue, 10 other people claim it's a different color. And how do you argue with it? You can't argue with them. You lose every argument. You try to argue with these people, which doesn't mean I don't try. But I draw a direct line from the death of newspapers to Trump. That is how we got Trump. We have Trump because people are no longer informed, and we no longer see the same news. We see different news, and one person sees, oh my God, Trump is, all over the Epstein files, and oh my God, he tried to overthrow the government, which is what I think the facts show in both cases. And you've got other people who say January 6th was just a day of tourism, and he had nothing to do with Epstein. They were no longer friends. He didn't know anything. Why do you hate Trump so much? He's such a great guy. He's saving America.
Right.
And of course, I could give 1,000 examples like that, and so could everybody else. And
yeah, the chat is super blowing up with your early starting point that I never really considered, which is having a local paper forced a neutrality and a sharing of information through a community, and how I'm interpreting this a little bit, kind of how grounding that was for us. Even though we may have eye-rolled local newspapers or been like, oh, it's not that important. It's just, what was the name of ours, Lawrence? I feel like Coral Springs had a paper.
We did. No, we absolutely had a local newspaper.
I can't remember what it was called, but I can see it in the plastic bag on our front porch.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was called either. What's interesting for me is, so people know that I recently, or, a year ago, I moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana to be near my family. Fort Wayne has a local paper that is still pretty robust. I mean, robust for the modern, for this moment in time, in that it exists, and it still puts out a daily paper that gets delivered. It's the Fort Wayne Gazette, and my mom is a subscriber, and she literally reads the local paper every day. And it isn't as, I think, kind of, Michelle, to your point, there's a lot more kind of AP Newswire stories and relatively less local reporting in it, but it does still exist. And so that gives a little bit of hope, but I'm also realizing how unusual that is for kind of the time that we live in.
Yeah, most of us live in a news desert. My old paper still exists. I'll see it on the checkout aisle, and it's a sad, it's a ghost paper. It exists. They're publishing it, but they don't have any staff. None. Not one actual employee.
How is it being pulled together?
For some time, most newspapers haven't done their own page layout.
Right.
The old terms. It used to be like a strip of paper that waxer. We use an X-Acto knife to cut it into columns. We put it on a paste-up flat. Those were the good old days. Now it goes, it's obviously a completely different computer-based system now, but one person they could be anywhere, can put together multiple papers, and they'll use a lot of pages like the international page or things like the food page or something. Those can be done and run in 100 different papers, and they'll have a unique front page, and they might have a freelance piece that they paid someone literally $20-$30 to go, say, cover the city council or something like that. And they may or may not have a little bit of other local content, but the rest of it will be all pure wire or regional wire, kind of I would sometimes have to do projects with newspapers from communities that were in my region, but we had nothing to do with each other. There were towns that if you lived in town A, you might never have been to town B. You had nothing in common, no ties. But the big brass would think well, you guys can kind of all run the same story about whatever. I'm like, really, we can't. We would have done our own story on this, but whatever. So they would have, these ghost papers may have just enough of what looks like local news to make it look like it still exists, but it's not. It's like going to a restaurant and eating all microwaved frozen dinners. It's like, why are you pretending this is a restaurant?
Right.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm also thinking of what it does to a community where um, up and coming like kids who are athletes or artists or like kind of getting their first mentions. Of course, there was no internet, so there was no way for people to go put their things out there, but a community can't elevate its own in that same way where everyone sees it and there's this acknowledgement of like, I'm in the paper, you see birth announcements, death announcements,
That
marriage
used to be a big
announcements.
deal. You know, you would cut
Yeah.
that. Your
Yeah, that went on the
if you had
fridge.
a baby or died, you cut out that birth announcement, that wedding announcement. You cut that out and you put it in your family scrapbook. You
Right.
had
100%. And there's um of course, a million ways for people to go post their own things online now,
Mhm.
but
But
there's
no,
an impermanence to that.
if I post something on Facebook, I mean, who really sees it? I mean, there are people on Facebook that I'm supposedly friends with that I haven't seen anything of theirs in years. And
Right.
then every so often you'll think, whatever happened to that person? And you look like, yeah, I'm still friends with them. They didn't unfriend me, block me, or whatever. Oh, and it looks like they got married, they had a baby, they started a business. I knew nothing. It never came up. They're too busy trying to sell me something. I don't pay as much
Right.
attention because I
Yeah.
used to.
I mean, that's the like inshitification of Facebook, right? That
Yeah. Oh,
the
Cory
time when
Doctorow.
Facebook first.
If everybody doesn't know Cory Doctorow, check him out. I know he's on Medium. It looks like he may have joined Stack, but I'm not sure if he's really active here yet or if he will be. But he's the guy who coined the term enshittification. I have
Yeah.
several of his books. He's very worthwhile. He knows the stuff. I've heard him in numerous interviews. He is a rock solid guy. No, I'm not like his friend or cousin or something. I just really admire him and think he's worth checking out.
Yeah, Michelle's saying I'm a huge sci-fi fan. He's an excellent sci-fi author. He's one of my favorite, like modern, current producers of sci-fi. And he's super smart about technology and the way it is impacting our world. And I'm reading Enshittification, and it's great. And it's exactly this, right? It's that Facebook came out, in the 2006, 2007 timeframe. And, people joined, and suddenly you were connected to all your, high school graduating class and your distant friends and family. And for a year or two, you could really keep up with what was going on in everybody's lives until they really started to productize us and then sell things to us and segment us out. And now, yeah, you're not, I mean, my niece and nephew who are Gen Z would be like, why are you even on Facebook?
Good for them. We should all step away from it more than we have, probably.
I loved Facebook for a very long time. For a Gen Xer was on there early through a job that I had in 2006. Lawrence and I were at the same company then. I got an account. That was back when you had to have like a EDU email address.
Yeah.
And I had long aged out of that, but I got an account and I haven't stepped away from it because it's my journal, right? It's all these milestones and it elevates memories for me. And I'm a connector by nature, right? And so all these people are there, but I'm finding this year, especially, I barely ever post about it unless it's just about stories I've written. And there's actually fear in it now. Like, I don't post very much about my kids anymore. I regret that I put so much up there now about them. But it was how 1,500 of my favorite people and I kept in touch about all of those things. It is a bit of a heartache for me to now approach it with fear. It's definitely not a good replacement for a local press. And one thing that's really interesting to me about this personally and why I made the connection of like we should come on and talk about this is I thought it was going to be my path. But I was editor of my high school newspaper. I was like, I want to be a journalist. I'm going to go to school for journalism. And then I got to college and I balked and I didn't do it.
Good.
I weirdly majored in speech therapy and did that for a while and made my way to whatever career I've had. And now here I am in my 50s, like, hey, I actually am a writer, community builder,
We
talker
make
on the internet, right? But I would love to hear from you of as someone who did run this really valuable resource for your community for years, what are like the three takeaways of things that we have lost?
Oh God.
in losing these local papers, or what your community specifically lost from losing
Well,
your
number
paper?
one, I could not even tell you who the members, every member of my Pekin City Council is anymore. And I used to know that. Not only did I know that, but I knew them, and not just because I was the editor, but because, they were in the news, all the time. So everybody, even if they didn't pay a lot of attention to local news, I think just about everybody knew who was active and what the issues were. But I don't know now, and every so often I hear there's a lot of things going on that aren't of interest to your audience, but there's a lot going on, and it's like, oh my God, this would have been so great to be covering this, and I'll hear little bits and pieces. There's a guy who, one of our city attorneys, who I always liked, even though sometimes we were adversarial, but I always did like him. And then we were on the same side of a local zoning thing because his parents at the time lived in my neighborhood, and we both had an interest in preventing a project. And he said to me at that point, a couple of years ago, he said, it's actually, he said, I know this is a terrible thing. He said, but it's great. He said, we can do whatever we want. Nobody's questioning us. And he said, like, I know that's not good, but from you, it was a lot easier. And I knew what he
Saying
meant.
that out loud is not great.
Not
Well,
great.
who was I gonna tell? I didn't have I could have posted it on Facebook, I guess.
Oh my gosh. So we lose track of our local leaders.
You don't know what's going on. And when you do know what's going on, you get distorted things. Like I had someone come by, my husband and I were walking our dogs, and we'd gotten just a little bit down the block when a guy came up to us and wanted us to sign a petition. He was making a pitch to a couple of neighbor ladies that would sign a petition to get rid of home rule. He wanted to put it on the ballot to get rid of home rule. I don't know how much you guys know about home rule, and the laws are different in different states, but if you're a home rule community in Illinois, you have the right to do everything that the state says you can't do, like as far as like setting your own tax rates and things like that. And if you're not home ruled, you have only the types of rights that the state grants to any municipality. So if you have any size, if you're over a certain size, you're automatically home rule. And if you're smaller, you have to vote to be. And we have been for a long time. And in my view, local control is almost always a good thing. And I think we'd be fools to get rid of it. And then as soon as he started talking, I realized, oh God, you're that guy. Oh my God, this guy was just an adversarial person. He didn't understand, and he has a personal beef with the city, and that's why he wants to do this. He's been like a dog with a bone. He's been talking about this for years, and it's not for any good reason. It's for a personal interest of his. And I said, no, so-and-so, I will not sign your petition because I know it's this is why. And he just like went crazy. My husband's like, come on. And I'm like, and furthermore, I don't know if my neighbor signed it or not, but he had another guy out again while we're walking your dog saying, hey, would you like to sign a petition to? I'm like, nope, I'm totally against it. But a lot of people probably are signing it because they're hearing whatever pitch he's giving.
Oh, sure.
I feel like I want to go door to door and say, would you be interested in reading a story about this guy's some sex charges against this guy? Would you be interested in reading a story about a coding issue that is his real reason for wanting to do this? If I had all the time in the world, or we could just put it in the freaking newspaper if we had one, but we don't really have.
Wow, that is such a great example, though, of like a situation in which the lack of a local newspaper really is kind of, in a way, contributing to people potentially voting against their own interest, because, in another world, they would just read these things in the newspaper about Joe Schmo and why he has a beef against the city council.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the idea that there was just a central sort of point of neutrality around the city of like, well, it's in the paper. So there was a veracity to it that is now in this like neutral source.
Well, let me say that we were never seen as a neutral source. I mean, I had people say all the damn time, like, you're in the pocket of the city council. And I'd say, I'm really unsuccessful at that then, because look at how I live. Shouldn't I be getting something if I am in their pocket? Why am I driving this 20-year-old car if I'm in the pocket of all these powerful people? I'm doing this wrong, apparently. No, I mean, people would say that all the time. And then even on Facebook, if I say something, somebody who remembers my name, I do have a very distinctive last name, Teheux. My husband and I are the only people in the entire country, to the best of my knowledge, who have this last name. He's an immigrant. It's not a common last name. If you hear it, you probably remember. It gives me, even now, 10 years later, people who've been in this community for a while, generally like, oh, are you the editor? I'm like, no, that is not my work. I haven't been an editor for 10 years. Please don't judge me. That's not my work now. Some people don't even know that. Think that I'm still the editor. Like, no. If I were still the editor, the paper wouldn't suck. But people don't necessarily give you credit. People don't necessarily give you credit for being neutral, even if you are, because a lot of people will think that you're neutral only if you're saying exactly what they believe. And if you have given the other side say, even if you're holding your nose when you do it and like, okay, here's a fact, but also this person who is involved has a different point of view and here's their statement. All of a sudden, both sides are like, that was unfair. Why did you even talk to the other person? Because that was the fair thing to do. But a lot of people don't see it that way. So we never got credit for being fair. But we were as fair as we could be. And that was part of why I tried to have as diverse a staff as possible, because if every single person there were a clone of me, we would have been a different paper. But the fact that you knew somebody else was going to read it who had a different point of view, a different worldview, and they were also going to edit the story, it just naturally worked as a curb. You would kind of naturally not self-censor, but self-buffer, or whatever the term might be, because you knew that this has to get by 2 or 3 other editors who have completely different points of view, as is normal. You shouldn't all have exactly the same point of view about very many things.
Right.
That makes for more interesting reading if you don't.
And
a question that came up earlier, you said you were laid off, I think you said in 2015 from the local paper. A few folks in there were like, was this ageism? Were you laid off specifically, or did they just shut down editorial for the paper?
It wasn't ageism at all. It was only the people over about the age of 40, who were 45, 50, that were laid off. Our sports editor, who was highly dedicated. Oh my God, I don't know anything about sports. I just let him do it. He knew what he was doing. He'd been doing it for a very long time. He was just a few years younger than me, not much. Or even a couple.
So it was ageism. You were being.
Oh yeah, they got rid of almost everybody. They'd already had a couple of little cuts. They weren't little because it was a small staff already, but we'd had numerous cuts actually. And then they went through with the chainsaw and they got rid of the sports editor, the editor, which was me, a community editor who was not as old as me, but not a young pup. And it was so bad. I later talked to the lady who used to do our obituaries, and she told me she was on vacation when they called her up frantic and said, could you come back? And she was making just like 50 cents over minimum wage probably. And they said, can you come back? We just realized there's no one in the newsroom who knows how to do obituaries. And so she should have said, sucks to be you, but she came back and took care of it on her own, because literally, I mean, I had everybody cross-trained enough, because people do get sick, quit, die. There were several people that knew. There were like at least 4 of us who could step in and take care of obituaries in case somebody wasn't available. But they laid off everybody, and she was on vacation. So they're like, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, an obituary. Yeah, we don't have anybody who knows how to do it.
Somebody just died. What are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Oh God, that's so morose.
And
what do you think of? Are there any technological solutions that are filling this gap for us? Things like Nextdoor or Newsbreak, where they are focused on local news, but they are digital.
No, I have seen nothing that's taking the place. And the reason is we've separated out news, entertainment, sports, community. We separate these things out. Nextdoor, I'm assuming, is probably a lot of fish fry, chicken dinner, school fundraiser stuff, right? I'm not actually on mine, but
here it's like look out, crime, stranger danger.
So you've got some sites that will focus on things like your community things, like, hey, you guys, we're going to close 7th Street next week to do some sort of road work or something. So there are sources where you can get stuff like that. And there are sources, depending upon the community and depending on what type of news, where you can get, you name it. You can get whatever entertainment, sports, or whatever you want to get. You can probably follow your school's Facebook page or get on some sort of a mailing list of some sort that they have set up to learn about your local school or something. But we brought it all together. If you got my paper and virtually any small town paper, you would get your local news, your school news. You got your classifieds in case you wanted to advertise for a job or look for a job or sell your sofa or buy a used car. If you wanted to find out what new businesses were moving into your, well, something I heard is moving into that empty store on Main Street. We would have that store. What was going on with your taxes? I mean, everything. It was all in one place. And the people who took out a classified or a display advertisement, and first Craigslist killed off at the classified. And when Craigslist killed off classified, do you think he took some of that money and he used it to cover community news? No, he did not. And when Facebook and other digital advertising killed off our display advertising to a great degree, do you think they used some of that money to cover local sports or to send a reporter to cover your city council? They fucking did not. They kept all the money that would have gone to the local media and they kept it in their own little greedy hands, and nothing at all was put towards the community. So this was like a whole little local ecosystem. Again, every obituary, birth, wedding announcement that people wanted to place, everything that was going on with your local road work and your local property taxes and your local schools and your local business community, and any local crime, and not just the lurid, horrific murders, but the little crimes that you never even know about now. We funded all of that stuff. Like, here's the deal. If you guys will subscribe and or read some advertisement and or place some advertisements and or place a classified ad once in a while when you're trying to sell your motorcycle, in return, you will get comics and Dear Abby and sports. You will get a smattering of national, international news. We will tell you the main things going on in your community. And also, if your school is having a fundraiser, we will run a notice for free, and every single person in town will get it. It will not go only to certain people. It'll go to everybody.
Right.
And that is a huge loss. So when we started divorcing ad revenue from subsidization of local news coverage, and this is, by the way, not just local. This applies to the entire news ecosystem. We've separated out entertainment from news, from community type citizen information. We've put these into different buckets. And you know what? Not everybody will bother to look at like a lot of people know shocking little about what's going on in the world. They might know everything about sports, or they might really be honed in on tax issues, or, they might have like one interest. But if you picked up an actual physical newspaper, even if you didn't read the whole thing, even if you're like, well, first thing I'm going to go is read sports or some sort of a fun column, like, people would read things like, oh, the old-fashioned hints from Heloise, or, people had their little favorite things. And some people would never read some things, but they would read other things. But just the act of flipping through the newspaper and looking at the headlines and a couple of pictures, you end up with some idea of what's going on in the world. I can vividly remember the day I ran a story somewhere at the back pages of the newspaper about this new website that I'd never heard of, that those crazy college kids were on. It was called Facebook. And I read that and like, that's kind of interesting. I'll put that in the paper. And, it didn't affect me because I wasn't from a higher education working in higher education. I didn't have an EDU email address. I thought it was just a college kid thing, but like that's kind of interesting. And I didn't realize that like a few years later, that little website that I thought was worth running a feature story about on page 12 was going to completely eat up my entire life and destroy my community and help elect a madman who would be able to get elected, because I guarantee you that 90% of the Trumpers out there do not know or do not believe anything bad being said about them. And the rest of us are like, what is going on? How could you vote for a man who did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 different horrible things? And they're like, I've not even heard about those things.
You have Trump derangement syndrome.
Right.
Yeah. You know what else I've got? I've got rape derangement syndrome. I've got murder derangement syndrome. I've got genocide derangement syndrome.
Wow.
Misogyny, derangement syndrome.
Embezzlement, derangement syndrome. Yes.
Oh my God.
I suffer
The
from
list goes on. Michelle, as you're saying all this, I'm also thinking about my non-career, right? Not going into journalism, but the path up used to have gatekeeping is the word coming up, and that's a negative word. But there used to be a standard of how one came up in journalism. I can see you're chomping at the bit. And they started at the local papers, where now they start by slapping up a podcast like we're doing, right? I know you have thoughts. Go.
I have so many thoughts.
Yes, please do.
As a little newspaper,
Yeah.
we were kind of like people's first step a lot of times.
Yes.
And they'd be like a new college grad, not a lot of experience, and someone like me would give them a job. And then if, sometimes people would put down roots in a community and stay because they get married, they've got kids, they stay here, and they're like I was one of those people, like I'm here and I'm not going to be moving around. I'm going to do things here. But other people were more, it's not necessarily more ambitious, but maybe, they had done roots and they wanted to further their careers. They would move up to a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger newspaper. And that was kind of how people moved ahead, and they gathered experience and then they took it and moved on. That means they cared about their reputation. They did not want to have a reputation as somebody who was a loose cannon, who was irresponsible or couldn't be trusted to do a good job, because we all knew each other in journalism. I knew all the people that I went to college with, and we worked in our college newspaper, and some of those people have had some really impressive careers. And I could name some names that you probably would know. And because people were sometimes moving around, you'd be like, do you know this person? Oh, I worked with him at that paper when I lived in that other town, and we knew each other through our professional associations. If we were active in our, I was always attending the Illinois Press Association annual events and things like that. You would kind of know who people were, and you knew their reputation too, like whether they were good or not. Like, I'd love to work with this guy, or that guy, not so good. Right. You knew this. You had a reputation. You cared about it, and not only that, but it was kind of like a status thing that, like, if you had broken a big story, you were really proud of that, and you thought, that you cared about your reputation. So I have a different view of gatekeeping. It can be good or bad.
Yes.
But I can tell you, like, one time a lady came into the paper and she wanted me to run her letter to the editor about the danger of airplane contrails. And I did not run it. And she wanted to know why. And I had to come up with a gentle way to tell her, honey, it's because you're a crackpot and I don't run bullshit in the newspaper. But I put it a slightly different way. But in general, I would run virtually any letter.
Right.
Another letter I didn't run because it was full of complete falsehoods about our founding fathers. She had attributed quotes that were easily provably not made by the founding fathers. They were made like 50 years or 100 years later by somebody else. And I told her, like, if you want to write a letter to the editor about this subject, I am happy to run it, but you have got to keep it factual. And instead of rewriting the letter, she contacted every single church in town and warned them that I was basically the Antichrist. I learned about that later. But in general, I would run almost anything. If you wanted to run a paper, I ran so many letters saying that I was a moron. And that I was a horrible person. I would run those letters. They said, I know you won't print this. I would print it, and I would also fix their terrible. Usually it would say, you're a moron. And I would fix the spelling of moron and say, like, yeah, okay, this person says I'm a moron. I don't care.
Oh my God. I'm imagining running the letter with all the, like, sick and, a little editor's note at the bottom. I'm running this letter just to show what a fucking moron this person actually.
What a moron.
I didn't yield to that temptation, but yeah. But the thing was, I didn't gatekeep in my own favor. I didn't gatekeep in favor of my worldview, but I did gatekeep in favor of not running complete facts or libel, or not complete facts, but complete lies or libel or really crackpot things. Sometimes there's a judgment call, and if I wasn't going to run something, I'd usually talk to them like, you've got this one paragraph here I would like to either to revise or delete because it is not factual. I tried to be very, very fair and to bend over backwards to be fair, in fact. And obviously everybody appreciated that and hailed me for my fairness. No, that didn't happen.
For a minute, I wanted to believe that it did, because that's the kind of America that I would like to believe in.
Oh God, this is a great story that only somewhat goes with this, but I have to tell it. One year, my staff decided that we would ring bells for the Salvation Army. So I'm standing in front of Walmart and I've got a coat and a hat and a scarf. It was snowing and it was really cold. And I'm ringing the bell. And this guy comes up and he starts talking to me. And he could see a little sign saying that, the volunteers that day were from the Pekin Daily Times. And he starts talking about the paper. And I guess I thought he knew who I was because my picture was in the paper every single day. And people usually, recognize me wherever I went. But I didn't think about the fact that with the hat and gloves and everything on, that he couldn't tell. And he starts talking about the paper in such a way that I just kind of let him talk. And then when I said, I'm the editor, and he was absolutely shocked because we really had a report. He was just visibly taken aback and shocked because, oh my God, he was talking to the horrible person that runs this awful paper, and she had impersonated a normal, reasonable human being. He could not believe it. I had several times something like that happen. Somebody came into the paper once, and I don't know if he was blind or what, but he's like, I really like the paper, but who I don't like is that Michelle Teheux. That's not how you pronounce my name. And I said, well, hello, I am Michelle Teheux. And he would just hightail it out of there. But people would just assume that you're a terrible person if you didn't parrot back their exact worldview. They wouldn't think, well, she's trying to be fair to all views. They would just think, well, she's obviously in the pocket of the other side. That's why she's driving a 20-year-old car and eating peanut butter sandwiches that she brings from home every day, type of thing. They would just immediately attribute it to me being unfair, or even though they may not put it this way, they would think I was gatekeeping. And the only gatekeeping I was doing was, to the best of my knowledge, presenting a fair view of the world and our community every day, to the best of my human ability.
Yeah. And, Michelle, this conversation has really made me realize how much we've lost through the loss of local papers. And also, this whole time I've been thinking about how we try to get it back. And I don't know that I have any ideas on how we could do it. Is there, if it's not technology, is there anything that you've ever thought of or come across that could potentially revive an interest in local newspapers?
The problem is that collecting local news is technology works really well for certain things, but you can never use technology to care for the frail elderly, to take care of children, to clean someone's house. These are things that no imaginable technology can do. I mean, maybe if we get really super robots someday, but I mean, a robot that being trained to take care of an elder person, that's a little bit hard to imagine even now. So technology is good at things that you can do at scale. It's terrible at doing things that take human touch. And local news takes human touch. If you send someone to cover your local city council meeting, they have to prepare for it ahead of time, read the packet, maybe make some calls. They've got to go to the council meeting, which is going to take, at least an hour. It could be several hours sometimes. Then they need to maybe do some follow-up questions, and they need to sit down and write it. Then they've got to post it online. And possibly you have somebody involved taking pictures. I mean, nowadays, usually the reporter would also take the photos, but that didn't used to be the case. Again, technology made it easier because you could just pick up your phone and take a picture instead of having a knowledgeable photographer having to develop film and so forth. So the technology made some of it easier, but only up to a point. So you still had to cover it with a human had to be involved in covering it. Yeah. And that would take several hours. Now you could pay this reporter just above minimum wage at a smaller newspaper, and they would do it from the love of the game. But still, if you're paying somebody even minimum wage, 3 hours work, that is expensive. And you've got to have all the technology, and someone's got to sell ads. You've got to have a building. You've got to do you have to have so many different things just to, to keep the doors open and the heat on. And
yeah,
even to run a very small newspaper, once you get beyond just one person doing it out of their home, and you cannot do a good job doing that, but if you've got even a small staff, and even if you're paying them shit wages, it's really expensive to collect news. And if you are the New York Times and you're paying someone to go to cover their city government, everybody in the world cares about what's going on in New York. So you can charge and you can make money, and they do make money. And I've been a subscriber for years. I got the print for as long as I could get it, and now I just get the online. And I think everybody needs to have at least one news source that's that aims at everything. If you don't get the New York Times, get whatever. But that's my choice of my overall news.
Even though they don't, mine too, but I'm debating that right now because they think that we're ruining the workplace.
Oh, we are. Yeah,
we are. Because we're so competent and able to multitask that we're making men threatened. What?
I don't even get me started on that guy, Rob. I am not even going to say his full name. I despise him so much, but okay.
Yeah,
I think we're going to be talking about that on Saturday when Carla Betcha is our guest. We're messaging about it right now.
He is unbelievable. He's not the only person. I mean, there's people there I agree with and some I don't, and that's good up to a point. But he is really one of the more egregious examples of. Okay, I'm going to get off topic. If I don't, just stop myself right there.
We're almost done. We're at the top of the hour. Go ahead and go get off topic.
Yeah, and give us a rant about Ross Douthat, or however the hell you say his last name.
Yeah. He has written so many things that another really good example was he interviewed Peter Thiel. For those who don't know who he is, he's kind of like the guy running the puppets behind the throne. He brought us J.D. Vance. He funds if it's a bad thing, Palantir. He gives money to every bad cause you can imagine. The period app people, the EV people that are sort of like the trad wife version of Cosmo, that are bringing forth like a really harmful things for women. Peter Thiel is behind all this stuff. He's a terrible person. He had an interview with Peter Thiel, and if you had run an interview of two sophomore college students trying mushrooms for the first time and discussing the stuff that the new ideas they were just exposed to on the college campus, it would read very much like the interview that he ran with Thiel. I was reading it, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? These people are both morons, and yet they're influential, and Peter Thiel is running the world. Peter Thiel wants to get rid of democracy and running everything like, have one corporation in charge of the world. I'm not making this up. It sounds incredible. I don't think you guys may realize it, but a lot of people don't realize there's a very strong movement to get rid of democracy. And instead of everybody voting, you think we don't have control now with votes? Wait till we don't really vote. We're all just like feudal. We're in the feudal system and we're all serfs, but instead of growing turnips for the Lord, we're doing whatever. But there's basically a corporation running everything. He, honest to God, is in favor of this. I know it sounds crazy. This is true. Have you guys heard about this?
Yeah, techno-feudalism, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Techno-feudalism, oh boy.
Yeah.
I do not like the sounds of that.
About it. Well, and one of the reasons why you can have these extreme points of view is you have communities and they're online, and in some little corner of the dark side of the web, you've got a little community of people who have some crazy view. And these people used to be your local crackpot that you would laugh off. And every town had its village idiot. And now you've got villageidiot.com. I don't know if that exists, but it might as well. And like they all have a certain point of view, and they start reinforcing each other and doubling down and getting more and more extreme views. And they're like a snowball that's gathering as they go. And eventually these people who might have been like the only person in the town that would have such a crazy idea, they've all met up and they formed a structure and they've gotten organized, and now they can start to have real influence. And their people pay attention only to the things that they want to hear. Everything is siloed. You've got your libertarian people and your liberal people and your conservative people and your neoliberals and your this and your that and your other. And when you had all these people stirred into one pot, nobody could be too crazy. But now, you've got everybody's got their own rabbit hole they go down, and
Thank you.
it is really a dangerous thing because that is how we ended up with Trump. Because none of us have the same view of Trump. Everybody hears. Some people see him as a successful businessman, which is crazy, but they do. Some people think of him as an alpha male, which again would be enough to drag me into being a lesbian right then if I thought that.
Michelle, I hate to do this. It is the top of the hour. And today's one of those days where I'm going to need to go. It's been such a pleasure talking to you this whole hour. My brain is mourning the loss that or the gap in knowledge and community that we've lost from losing these valuable papers. And I think you're right. They're deeply human. There's sort of, we can be part of Facebook groups, but it's not doing the same work that you are doing. So we thank you for your perspective.
We've killed off civic life to such a great degree.
Yeah, we really have.
We really have. Thank you again. We are definitely going to have you and your amazing hair back on very soon. Thank you all for joining us today. We had a super lively chat. God, where's my voice gone?
I would love to see those chats. I wish that that Substack would change it so that we could all see all of the chats. I haven't seen any of them, but I would love to. I would love to read those.
All right. Yeah, I'm cutting and pasting
we'll scrape
it right now.
And yeah, and I can send it to you via email. Because we try to scrape it, although that hasn't been working as well lately. Michelle, it was awesome having you here. We're definitely going to talk to you again in the very near future. But we got to go. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Love
it.
you, mean it. Bye.
Love you, mean it.
Bye.
Bye.
Mwah.
Okay.